When you hear the term biblical, it generally means that we're dealing with something of extraordinary proportions. Within our lifetime, the only thing that I could come up that would be considered biblical, in my estimation, is the dropping of the bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which ended the Second World War. Looking back in biblical times, one would consider the flood as being definitively something that was a cataclysm that affected the entire globe. This video is going to deal with the Red Sea moment. This was a definitive biblical event for the Israelites as they escaped Egypt and the oppression of the Pharaoh while they were enslaved in Egypt for over 300 years. From the Red Sea moment to the present day, we're looking at a time period that spans over 3,000 years. The great question that arises is, are we about to face another Red Sea moment that is going to be truly biblical on a global scale? The Red Sea event is found in Exodus the 14th chapter, and I'm going to start with verse 5. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their minds about them and said, "What have we done? We've let the Israelites go and we've lost their services." He took 600 of the best chariots along with all the other chariots of Egypt, with officers over all of them. The Egyptians, all Pharaoh's horses and chariots, horsemen and troops pursued the Israelites and overtook them as they camped by the Red Sea. As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up, and there were the Egyptians marching after them. They were terrified and cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, "Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us into the desert to die? What have you done to us to bring us out of Egypt? Didn't we say to you in Egypt, 'Leave us alone and let us serve the Egyptians'? It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert." This is a perfect example of human nature. People would rather stay trapped as slaves for convenience sake rather than to venture into the unknown and face the possibility of freedom and liberty. Moses answered the people, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you'll see the deliverance the Lord will bring to you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You will need only to be still." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on. Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the water so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground. I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will go in after them, and I will gain glory through Pharaoh and his army, through his chariots and his horsemen. The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I gain glory through Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen." Always remember that God gets the glory for events that are truly miraculous. This is not something man-made. This is not something man does. This is the miraculous hand of God and his arm in fighting the fight for mankind against evil. Then the angel of God, who had been traveling in front of Israel's army, withdrew and went behind them. The pillar of cloud also moved from in front and stood behind them, coming between the armies of Egypt and Israel. Throughout the night, the cloud brought darkness to one side and light on the other side, so neither went near the other all night long. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground, with a wall of water on their right and on their left. The Egyptians pursued them, and all Pharaoh's horses and chariots and horsemen followed them into the sea. During the last watch of the night, the Lord looked down from the pillar of fire and cloud at the Egyptian army and threw it into confusion. He jammed the wheels of their chariots so that they had difficulty driving. And the Egyptians said, "Let us get away from the Israelites. The Lord is fighting for them against Egypt." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, so that the waters may flow back over the Egyptians and their chariots and horsemen." Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and at daybreak the sea went back to its place. The Egyptians were fleeing toward it, and the Lord swept them into the sea. The water flowed back and covered the chariots and horsemen, the entire army of Pharaoh that had followed the Israelites into the sea. Not one of them survived. But the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground, with a wall of water on their right and on their left. That day the Lord saved Israel from the hands of the Egyptians. And Israel saw the Egyptians laying dead on the shore. And when the Israelites saw the mighty hand of the Lord displayed against the Egyptians, the people feared the Lord and put their trust in him and in Moses his servant. Get ready for another Red Sea moment. The globe will be completely different very shortly. Jesus is in control. God bless you.